Hey everyone, Nux333 here, and I'm going to be giving my quick impressions on the Switch presentation. But at the same time, there is a lot to talk about and a lot of things to go over concerning both the Switch and Nintendo, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's get started. So first things first, we're going to go over the different things that occurred within the Switch presentation, how I felt while watching it, and just go over a rundown of notes that I have here talking about the Switch presentation. So the Switch presentation opens with, of course, Kimishima taking the stage. He's the current president of Nintendo, and it's one of his first major times really presenting and identifying himself as the current president of Nintendo. So obviously we went into this thing very hyped. You can tell by our reaction that we went in with the highest of expectations, because this time I expected Nintendo to not just give a C-tier performance or, God forbid, the trash performance that was at E3 2015. I wanted Nintendo to give a top tier performance and do the best that they could be at this presentation, because they need to sell people at the Switch. The point of this presentation was to sell people of the idea of the Switch, tell them about it, and also show us really good games convincing us to buy it. So it started with the price. So at first we expected most of the rumors coming from Laura K. Dale and other sources to be true about the Switch's price, and that the rumored price was going to be $250, or at the very least maybe there'd be different bundles with different prices. Well, it turns out that in the end there was only one real Switch package, and it cost $300 altogether. You get the weird looking dog controller, you get your Joy-Cons, and you get the system itself, which is the screen tablet looking thingy. So that was pretty much it. Oh, and the dock, of course. So all that was $300. So at first I was kind of iffy about that, Some of our friends were like, yeah, $300 isn't too bad. And the reason why it's not is because I feel like $300 is a sweet spot in a way. Like, I see a lot of people complaining that $300 is crazy expensive. It's ridiculous. For a new console, $300 is really not that bad at all, especially with systems that originally launched at like $400 or, God forbid, $500 or $600. So $300 really isn't that bad. So the reason why I think $300 is an okay price is because $300 is a sweet spot. It's a middle ground. Like, I honestly don't know what people were thinking when they said, oh, I think the Nintendo Switch should be $200, not even $250. Do you know how ridiculous it sounds to have a console in the $200 range? Like, I know obviously Nintendo systems in the past have lacked stuff, but having any system in the $200 range obviously is gonna cost, some risk in other areas. And that's why I felt like going to $250 in itself was risky in a way, and going to $200 was definitely stupid. Anyone complaining about those prices made no sense to me, because it's super low for a console, like any platform of gaming. But to be fair, I could understand why $300 is kind of a price for people, and it's understandable. And what's kind of dumber though is I was waiting to see if there would be bundles at this point, but I noticed that they had not announced any, and that is because for some reason the Nintendo Switch has no launch bundles, no future bundles at least, ready to go. It's just gonna be the Switch, and then you'll have to buy your games separately. And this is a problem for quite a few reasons, which I'm going to come back to. So after we get the price, we get the release date. And the release date is March 3rd. Now, that release date blew me back personally, because I was not expecting the system to launch that early in the month. I was expecting it to be towards the end of the month, like Nintendo usually likes to do with games, systems, and pretty much everything. So the fact that it's literally basically at the start of the month, at the end of February, is pretty interesting, and I found that kind of cool. So after that, they move on and start talking about, other things that the Switch will have. They don't really go into detail. And then they drop the big bombshell that Switch will have paid online. Now, this is something that's really interesting because it's something that instantly blew the minds of Nintendo fans everywhere collectively. And it really, was a very touchy subject among different people. So what do I personally think about the paid online debacle? Well, it really was a confusing topic for me to come across because paid online was something that was rumored that started by Obi-Wan, and at first I obviously called BS on it because not only is Obi-Wan really just a hype channel, and I figured maybe he was doing it for views, but nope, his sources were right. Somehow more right than even Laura's sources, and we ended up with paid online. And it's really an interesting, man. So paid online, honestly, at first, really was a negative thought for me. And the reason why paid online was very negative in my mind is because with Nintendo systems, we've always been used to the no pay to play online formula, and when it comes to my own personal gaming values, I believe that online gaming should really not cost much. Maybe I could understand why certain features and certain things cost money, but it should not cost money to play a game and connect it to your internet to play. That's what I appreciate about the PC. And what I did appreciate about Nintendo systems, I never backed up with Sony and Microsoft about the whole pay-to-play online thing. Even though I owned systems from both of them in the past, I never really took up on their stance with online, so I played offline games. But now it seems like Nintendo seems to be going the route, and I honestly don't know what to think. As someone who really was against the pay-to-play online formula, it would be very hypocritical if I suddenly decide to say, oh, well, paid online is okay now because Nintendo's doing it. No, it's not okay, honestly, because, once again, it goes against my values of how I've gamed for years, and now that they're not doing it, it's really killing me, because unlike, Sony and Microsoft with their platforms that I kind of just use as an afterthought, I have a lot of Nintendo games that I really do like to play hardcore, like Smash, like Splatoon, and so on, like Mario Kart, etc. And I really enjoy playing those games, and the fact that now those games will have to be locked behind a paywall to get the full enjoyment, the online enjoyment, is just devastating to me, and it's honestly something that turns me off when it comes to the Switch presentation. Now, thinking about it, I really don't know whether or not in the future when I do purchase a Switch, because inevitably in the future I might purchase a Switch because obviously my top favorite franchises are in the Nintendo camp. So if I really do want to enjoy some of those franchises to their fullest with their online features, maybe I will have to break my principle and pay for online. Will I do it? As of now, my answer is no. Because for starters, we don't know what features or how good this online is even going to be. Imagine if the paid online ends up being exactly what we got for Wii U, Wii, and etc., except now it's just locked behind a paywall. It would be extremely foolish, and it would make Nintendo look very greedy, and we're going to be talking about greed later, because it's not the only thing that makes me question Nintendo and that word. Also, we also know some things about the online features, and that we know that they are tied to a mobile app, which in my opinion even makes it more shaky, because why on earth are online features tied to an app? Why can't they just be through the system? If I wanted to tie online features to an app on my cell phone, on my cellular device, I might as well do it on my PC or some other device I have, like my tablet. Like, I could just go on Skype and Discord and use that. What's the point of making it that complicated? Why not just put it through the system in the first place? And that's just one thing that made me really question what was Nintendo thinking there, And how did they think that people were just going to willingly jump on with that? Honestly, it really sounds foolish and it makes no sense. This is the reason why I do not get behind their online policy as of now. Until we see more, I will make a better judgment, but as of now, the paid online shabaffle to me is garbage. It really sounds pretty bad, and honestly, they should have just figured out a way to make it stay free, because a company as wealthy as them, like, I'm not dumb, I know very well how wealthy Nintendo is, so obviously they'd have the money to still keep online alive. So now that we're done with that, we are going to switch into the next game that, came after the whole online thing. So after that, they began to show their games. Here's the problem. The game that they decided to start the show with and to dedicate a lot of time and effort in explaining the gimmick connected to this game is a game by the name of 1-2 Switch. Now, when I first saw 1-2 Switch and I saw the whole Cowboy Desert thing, I was like, oh, is that Red Dead Redemption? Is that like Dillion's Rolling Western or something? Like, I had no idea what it was. I thought it was an actual game. Little did we know, it's another minigame collection. To which I really have to scratch my head. Why in God's name is there a motion control based minigame collection being promoted as the highlight of your system? I don't think Nintendo understands, but that looked like a Wii era game. And what Nintendo seems to not understand is that the Wii era is very, very dead. Like, things with motion controls and swinging your arms back and forth and all that died years ago, back when the Wii was fading and back when they went into the Wii U. And when they tried to carry on gimmicky stuff like that to the Wii U, did that take off? No. So why on earth this presentation is starting with 1-2 Switch and putting an emphasis on the motion controls blows my mind. I thought the original initial trailer made it very clear that the focus of Switch was going to be the portable aspect, the console and play on the go and play however you want to. But suddenly we seem to have a change of heart and we're talking about HD Rumble and how it feels really realistic and how it really feels like you're milking a cow or holding ice cubes or some other silly weird stuff. Like, it really makes no sense because this is the exact stuff that Nintendo said that they were branching away from and that they need to branch away from because we already know it's not successful. We know it's not going to work if they try to pull it off again. So why on earth they started the show with this is beyond me. And not only did they start the show with this, it took up a ridiculous amount of time of the show. In fact, leading into ARMS, the next game that was announced that takes advantage of, the Switch HD Rumble, it takes up the first 30 minutes of the hour-long presentation. That, to me, is utterly ridiculous because that is the first 30 minutes of the presentation. That is pretty much everyone is hooked in, paying very close attention, and you decide to spend that first majority, like, you started great. You went into what the accessories of the system were, what it was coming with, what bundles it was, price, yada yada yada. But then you want to go into a game that makes really no sense to exist, another game that kind of just takes advantage of it and exists just for the purpose of using it. Although I have a feeling ARMS, there may be more to ARMS than there is that we know. Perhaps maybe it's the next Splatoon in disguise. I think that there may be something deeper there, shining under that rubble. But honestly, the reason why I kind of don't care is because, first of all, that is the laziest game title I've ever heard. Like, you really couldn't think of anything else other than ARMS. It just really makes no sense to me. And second off, here's the bad news. So remember how I mentioned that Nintendo Switch has no day one bundles, really with no game bundle with it? That leaves 1-2 Switch and ARMS, games like that, on their own. And according to what we know, this isn't fully confirmed or anything, but according to what we know, those games are fully priced $60 games. You want to tell me that you're going to have on day one an IP that has yet to establish itself? Not really. You want to establish it with motion controls opening up, and then you have a minigame collection that looks like it came from the Wii era for $60 to buy on their own? You're not going to bundle any of that with the system? Absolute foolishness, because no one is buying that. No one is playing 1-2 Switch in public. Like, they had pictures of people playing 1-2 Switch in public, and no one's doing that because it's a Wii era game. Wii era stuff died all the way back in 2008, or whenever it started to die off. Leave that behind, Nintendo. It's over. So, that first 30 minutes, man, was absolute trash. I'm sorry, I gotta be honest. The first 30 minutes of this presentation were really bad, because not only do you have the meh price of $300, which I don't think is that bad, but it's really meh and shaky. The release date is perfectly fine, but then you jump straight into the paid online, barely explain it, then you decide to dedicate the next few minutes completely to motion control, HD rumble, and weird stuff that no one would care about this far into the presentation, or this early, I should say, because it's the first 30 minutes. You don't open a show like that. You open a show with excitement, and you open it with explaining things clearly and showing us stuff, without long developer comments and annoying things like that. And that's what I feel like is the biggest harming thing to the Switch presentation, and it's the reason why that first 30 minutes was so rough. Alright, so now that we're done with that, covering the first 30 minutes of the Nintendo Switch presentation, we can move on and start talking about the second half, the stuff that came afterwards, and then stuff that was after the show. We'll talk about that, and I'll give my quick thoughts on that. So first things first, after the disaster that I feel was the first 30 minutes, that really is probably what put people on the negative the most, we finally get into some real games, some actual game announcements. So let's go over them, talk about the reveals, how I felt, and whether or not they were executed right. So first things first, we jump straight into the reveal of Splatoon 2. Not a Splatoon port, not a Wii U port like all the rumors we're talking about. We're talking a straight up sequel to the original Splatoon, which honestly surprised me because I didn't think they were going to make a sequel this soon. I was expecting, the usual Nintendo development cycle where most of their big next installments for a lot of their series come a little after time, from the previous. And with Splatoon, they wasted no time jumping straight into the sequel. So I found that really cool. Now, when it comes to Splatoon 2, what do I think? Well, obviously, I felt like I didn't see too much that blew me away. It looks, as many people will point out, it looks pretty much like the first game, but with additions, such as rolling, new weapons, a new pub world, and stuff like that. There's many new things changed within, but to the core structure, it's still Splatoon. And I feel like that mostly has to do with the idea of how shooters, tend to not rarely change when they evolve from their sequels. Obviously, there are things that will evolve and make them better as they go on. That's just a natural progression of video games. But I feel like that's probably the reason why the Splatoon sequel is out sooner than I imagine, and the reason why it seems pretty similar to the first game. It's nothing mind-blowing or that crazy. So I really like the reveal of Splatoon 2. I like how they handled it. I love the music of it, and I think it'll be fine. There's just one problem though, that freaking paid online. See, I was hyped for Splatoon 2 and I thought that it was going to be cool to play until I realized that once again, we're paying for online. So the problem is, even though Splatoon 2 is there, we're going to have to pay online to really play it. And Splatoon, unlike some other games maybe like a Mario or a Zelda, is something that doesn't really stand by itself as just a single player experience. Like the single player experience in Splatoon, the original game, was okay, but it didn't carry the game. It was that online and the different things that you could do on there. So with the paid online, again, it just feels like an obstacle, and it really feels like it limits, my choice of buying this game, because it really makes me feel like, should I really buy this? Because if I don't pay for the online, I'm really not going to get any enjoyment out of it. But we'll come back to that again later. So after Splatoon, they do an interesting transition to the next game. It starts off with a city oversight, and I was thinking, is this Splatoon again? Because it's kind of like a weird city oversight, and it's this really New York looking city, and at first I'm like, okay, this looks interesting. And then, what I didn't expect is this man, Mario, jumping out from a sewer grid, or whatever they're called. He jumps out from the sewers, and it is the 3D Mario, and my mind, gone. It's gone. That 3D Mario trailer was one of the most exciting Mario related trailers in years, because just seeing Mario run around in an open world city in an HD looking environment was amazing, and it's something I've been asking for since Super Mario Galaxy, because I missed it when Mario was more of an ambitious franchise. Yeah, I really did enjoy 3D World, and I'm one of the few people who really went out of the way to defend that game, but even I have to admit that it just doesn't beat the magic that the original Super Mario 64, Sunshine, or Galaxy has. It's not a real 3D Mario game like those games. It's just a straight to the goal game, and some would argue Galaxy and Galaxy 2 is in that vein too. Well, now it's clear that they're going back to that open world formula, because Nintendo clearly states after they revealed this game that Super Mario Odyssey, which is the name of this game, is what they are targeting. They're targeting hardcore Mario fans and delivering that promise of real 3D Mario. And that to me is great, because for once, they are listening to their fans. If only Nintendo would understand that if they did that more often, people would stick around longer, but whatever. It's something I'll touch upon in the future. What do I think of Super Mario Odyssey? 10/10. I think it looks really good. It's the exact direction that I wanted Mario to go. I wanted Mario to explore bigger environments. I wanted to see him in cool places like cities and stuff. Like, Mario running around in a city is something crazy. Like, I never imagined I'd see that. I thought I'd see Sonic running around in a city for a long time, way before I'd see Mario running around in one, and it's just really cool. Some people would argue that the city aspect, it's not the main one, but it's one of the biggest ones focused on. Some people would argue that it's really weird because the city has realistic humans, and I'm talking like Sonic 06 realistic humans. Like, Mario clearly stands out among them, and it's really weird. What do I think? I do think the humans could have been maybe designed to kind of fit the world a little better. Maybe make them look a little more like Mario, except obviously not with popping noses and bright red eyes. Like, at least make them seem like they fit in the world. These games feel like, or these humans feel like they were like, base models with little polish. It's nothing really mind-blowing, and it's pretty crazy to see Mario running around in an environment like that. But I did like many of the other environments. They looked really ambitious, really new. It's what I've been wanting in Mario for a long time, and hopefully they give this care and respect to their other series, and heck, not just their other series, to other branches of Mario. Like, how fans want Paper Mario to revert back to its roots? Do that, Nintendo, please, for the love of God. But I think I'm going to stop rambling on Mario there. So after the showcase of Mario and how pretty amazing it was, we begin to go to the next few games. So next, we immediately go into Koei Tecmo's game, which took me by surprise. I didn't see that coming. Actually, wait, I don't think it was Koei Tecmo's game first. I think it was actually Monolith Soft next. I think after we got Monolith Soft, I don't know if it was Monolith or Koei Tecmo. Let's just say Monolith for the sake of simplicity. So after Mario Odyssey, we go into Monolith's game, which is revealed in short to be Xenoblade 2, which caught me off guard because I didn't think Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was going to happen for a while. I didn't think the direct sequel to Shulk's adventure was going to happen for a while. And that took me by surprise. And what's even more crazier is they're allegedly targeting a 2017 release date, which, wow. No words. Like, I feel like it's gonna get delayed because RPGs like that tend to get a good number of delays. But who knows? Maybe they have this thing wrapped up, ready for the end of the year. Maybe it'll be a holiday title. Or they'll even have it at the summer. Like, who knows? They could have it in 2017. But I think Xenoblade Chronicles 2, was a good reveal because that's a game that people have wanted. Even though X was an okay game itself, some people obviously wanted a little more. They wanted to continue the story from the original Xenoblade. So seeing a new one in that vein is really cool. Okay, so now we can get into Koei Tecmo's game. Koei Tecmo's game, which we know was an Unknown Warriors game that focused on a Nintendo IP, it turns out that it was Fire Emblem, just as I expected. A lot of people pretty much saw this coming, that a Fire Emblem Warriors would be one of the next Warriors game. It just fits. Fire Emblem is a series that is all about, fighting with swords and stuff like that, and it fits Koei Tecmo's style. So obviously a Fire Emblem Warriors was happening. Me personally, as well as a few of my friends, if you could tell from the reaction, were kind of like, meh. Because even though I like Fire Emblem, I don't like it to the extent where I'd want to see it given the treatment that Hyrule Warriors was given, because I think Fire Emblem, in my opinion, would just be a little more bland and boring compared to what they could do with another franchise. Like, I'm still holding out for Dreamland Warriors. I mean, I'll always take my offer up on that idea. Moving on aside, Fire Emblem Warriors, it's cool. It's cool to think that we could possibly have a Fire Emblem game in year one in the Koei Tecmo Warrior style vibe. Actually, I don't know if it was confirmed for year one, but either way, it's there. It's cool. We also got the announcement of the next Shin Megami Tensei from Atlus, which was pretty cool, but I don't really play Shin Megami Tensei, so I don't have too much to say there for the sake of time. Then we went into stuff like talking about the third parties, and they would bring on different third parties to talk about their IPs. Now, let me just comment on this, because I thought that the way that the third parties were presented and handled was very boring and very lame, in my opinion. Because basically what they do is they call one out and say, oh, say something nice about the Switch, say something about the game that you're developing. And it just felt so empty. Like, I don't know how to describe it, really. It just felt like they'd come on, they'd say what they'd have to say, and then they'd just move on. Didn't really feel like they were that enthusiastic to really develop a handful of titles of games for the Switch. And it's made even worse by the fact that some of them really didn't announce a handful or talk about their plans in greater detail. I'm going to give a big example of being Sega, who came on stage and literally did nothing. And I point out Sega because this is, other than Nintendo, this is my second tier company here. They came on stage at this event and announced nothing. Sonic Mania got announced for the Nintendo Switch after the event, which I saw coming from a mile away, but we have Project 17 and we have Sonic Mania, two big Sonic games that are coming to the Switch and are coming in the future. What did they decide to talk about them here? Nothing. They decided to talk about literally nothing, and it just felt like a Sega moment. Sega would do that. And it's made even worse by the fact that they still continue to be quiet about Sonic Mania and Project 2017 to the point where it's so mysterious. Well, more so Project 2017 than Mania. They've definitely talked about Mania a little more, but Project 2017 continues to be this mystery game that by now we still only have a CGI trailer. And this game has been in development allegedly for years, so it makes no sense that they still continue to show nothing with it. It's even more odd that Mania is actually listed for year one for Switch, But Project 2017, for some weird reason, is not. Which makes no sense because Project 2017 should be a 2017 game, but why isn't it listed? Oh, Sega. Oh, Sega. We also got some other announcements. We got Skyrim, which in my opinion was not exciting because it didn't feel like they were generally enthusiastic to bring a proper rendition of Skyrim to the system, nor any other games for that matter. And we did get some cool announcements. Now, one cool announcement was Suda51 came on stage, and he announced No More, basically what I assume was No More Heroes Free, but the way he described it sounded weird, like it was another game with Travis Touchdown, he said. He didn't just straight up say No More Heroes Free. He kind of just, beat around the bush with it. And we also know that he hasn't even started development on it, so that was kind of weird. That was weird how he came on stage just for that. Other than that, nothing much to really say there. EA came on stage about their sports and blah, blah. Third-party support, honestly, in my opinion, when it comes to the Switch, is just, it's gonna be weak again. I can see it coming from a mile away. And you know why I feel like third-party support continues to be weak? Is I feel like not only does Nintendo and obviously their fans don't understand the importance of it, I feel like there's so many weird things around the Switch at this point being talked about that some third parties still feel scared to really dedicate any effort into Nintendo, and that presentation made that more clear than ever. Obviously, I feel like the real only way that Nintendo is ever going to get third parties in a head-to-head battle with Sony and Microsoft is obviously to go head-to-head with them in the whole HD console, basic console race. But many people would argue that that's obviously a stupid argument because why would they do that? They would lose if they did that. To which I could kind of see that argument, but I feel like in certain aspects of that would do better than the route that they're doing now. But again, that's an in general thought and something that will be talked about in a wider scale video. So now we're going to get to more notes regarding the Switch presentation. Zelda was at the end, and honestly, it was one of the best trailers for Zelda ever. Like, when it comes to the highlights of this event, Zelda, Mario, Splatoon, and Xenoblade 2, I feel like were the best made trailers and best presented aspects of this presentation, and they were just simply trailers. I feel like if Nintendo knew that they were going to deliver a weak performance, they should have just relied on trailers alone and organized that a little better so that the presentation looked like it had much more fluff as opposed to what they ended up doing, especially dedicating the first freaking minutes to motion control. Jesus Christ. Oh, and we also found out Zelda was at launch, which is awesome, but a little meh for me because of a point that I will be getting to in a few minutes. So, a few additional notes. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, the Mario Kart 8 port, was confirmed, but the problem with that is, well, the only differences will be the new characters, which are the Inklings, and an improved battle mode. Also, the double item slot. Now, honestly, I feel like this isn't enough to justify a $60 double dip, basically, because obviously I bought the original Mario Kart 8. I sold Sonic Lost World for it. I bought the original Mario Kart 8, and I bought all the DLC, and so buying this deluxe edition, it would be kind of useless for me. So I feel like it's not worth another double dip in terms of that. So that leaves us with a few additional notes. Internal storage will once again be 32 gigabytes. Trash. Why they did this, I don't know. No Mother 3 in sight, so all the rumors that Mother 3 would finally get shown were once again wrong, and that's going to be its own video later. And there are many other small notes that I will talk about in the future. So what is my overall impression on the Switch now? Has the Switch finally sold me to pick it up day one? has the Switch convinced me that it will be Nintendo's next big success. Alright, so now that I recapped all that, the reason why I went fast with that, and also the reason why I was whispering most of that time because I'm trying to keep it down right now, but the reason why I went fast in summarizing that is you already know how the event went. I just wanted to give my quick thoughts on that. But now it's time to get into my final verdict. Very similar to how I gave a sort of final verdict for the Sonic presentation back in July. So what is my final verdict on the Switch? Honestly, I feel like when it comes to the Nintendo Switch, it's a system with a lot of confusion and a lot of concern. There are a lot of aspects of it that remind me of back when I bought the Wii U. I was super hyped for it. There were games for it that looked good. Obviously, this is going to be a better launch than Wii U because we have stuff like Zelda, but here's the problem. It's only Zelda. And I mean only Zelda. In terms of day one launch is basically trash, minus Zelda. Oh, and Bomberman's there. I forgot to talk about him because I like Bomberman, but for some reason Bomberman is at launch, and Konami made another one. Why Bomberman is randomly alive, God knows, but I'm glad to see him back. That's something, I guess. But besides that, obviously I feel like that's not enough. It's enough for the average Nintendo fan, and I think Zelda on its own is enough to bring in new people, but it's not enough to hold a system for a launch. And I am sick and tired of the argument that launch should not have a bunch of games. Now, I think launch obviously should launch with every heavy hitter that Nintendo has in development, but I feel like launch should have games that really define the system. And what is that launch at Switch? Minus Zelda and minus Bomberman, we have a freaking mini-game collection again. Like, why? Why are games like that going to be at launch to show that that's what the Switch is about alongside Zelda? All it's doing is once again making the messaging and the marketing of the system very confusing. And I feel like when it comes to the Switch being a success for other people, you know, people who are not me, hardcore gamers who play games on a regular, it's really going to be confusing for them because the system had so many messages it tried to get across that are confusing people, not to mention repeated mistakes from the Wii U that have not yet been resolved, such as the 32 gigabyte thing or other garbage, and not to mention the additional new problem of paid online in the way that they just threw it on people and expected them to accept it like it's always been there. Nuh-uh. I'm pretty sure that drove its number of people off. And I think Nintendo could have done better in presenting it to people than the way that they did. And I feel like that's definitely going to come back to bite them 100%. I guarantee you in the future that the shabaffle with paid online is going to bite them. Overall, I feel like the Nintendo Switch is such a confusing console. There are aspects of it that are really good. We have a proper Mario on it. We have proper sequels to games. No games that I felt like were stupid and didn't need to be made, like freaking Federation Force, Amiibo Festival, Color Splash, stuff like that. These were all pretty reasonable games, minus stuff like 1-2 Switch. The problem is, this should not have been a C-tier performance. This should have been an A-plus performance. There should have been more games. Even if they didn't have to be launch day one games. They should have been showed off. Like, they didn't have to be day one games just to be shown off. Look at Mario. That's coming in the holiday. And you showed that off. They should have showed even more of their games instead of doing this stupid strategy where they feel the need to sprinkle them just to keep some sort of hype revolving. They seriously need to get this together in terms of their marketing performance because it really is crippling them. And I feel like, minus what I have to say, they're not really going to take off with the Switch as not only they hope, but as I hoped as well. And that's not only due to Nintendo's foolishness as a company in themselves, that's due to what I think is also rooted in the fan base, and it's leading them in a direction that's really making me questionable, which will be talked about in a video separate from itself. Now again, minus my negatives, I think that there are good aspects of the system. The games so far are pretty harmless, minus a few. It seems like they're putting a little more time into these games and into what they want to do when it comes to development, but the problem is they are not leaving their stubborn Nintendo ways behind like they should be, and it's leading them to do like half good. Half good is not enough. Alright, that was my thoughts on the Nintendo Switch presentation. It was such a meh performance that I had to give it a C, and it pains me to give it a C because we should not be having a C tier performance from Nintendo by now. We should be having an A tier. We waited years to deal with the dying effect Wii U just for this? No, it's not really acceptable to me. Minus that, that's pretty much my thoughts on the Switch. What do I think of the Switch? I will be waiting until at least the holiday of this year at the latest to consider picking one up. I'm going to wait and see what happens with the Switch, and I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to think about it, and then we'll talk about a purchase. Plus, I didn't even mention other ridiculous aspects of Switch that make it hard to like it, such as the pricing for some of the non-accessories that don't come with the bundle. Like, freaking almost $70 for a Pro Controller. Jesus Christ. Literally the most neutral feeling that I've had for Nintendo ever. Nothing too negative, nothing too positive, but it's so neutral that it makes no sense. And it didn't help by the fact that when the full reveal went down, I was bombarded with, different comments from different friends. Like, I was bombarded with plenty of negativity by friends, oh, you're a fanboy for liking this about the Switch. How could you defend this? Blah, blah, blah. I was bamboozled by freaking fans who love Nintendo and decide to fanboy out and say, oh, how dare you say this about Nintendo? You're a freaking hater. Other than that, that's pretty much all I have to say about the Nintendo Switch. If you have, anything else that you think I should talk about in the future regarding Nintendo, regarding the Switch, I will make videos in the future relating to that stuff, but other than that, I have my own topics planned for this channel that I do plan to cover and talk about. It's mainly going to be about addressing problems, so don't expect a lot of positivity from me because I'm not really in a positive state right now when it comes to this channel. But at the end of the day, I will do what I do best and get content out to you guys. Alright, well, this has been Nux 333, or 333. I'm still working on the pronunciation. This is Nux, and I'm out. Peace, guys.